Thank you, David. It's a privilege to be here today, this evening. I want to congratulate Becky. You're awesome. You might have been able to make our team. We should have signed her up, Charlie. And Wade, congratulations to you as well. Now, what he didn't really share about his basketball is he was mean on the court. He uses the word physical, but I watched him play. He's mean on the basketball court. Elbows, no. Very nice. Congrats, though. I want to thank my family for coming, the ones that could make it. My sister and brother-in-law, Bill and Jody Pink, my mother-in-law, Shirley, and last but not least is my beautiful wife of almost 28 years next month, huh? Been married 28 years. And, my wife has probably sat at some of these things more than she has wanted to. And my wife really deserves most of the credit, by the way. She has been a tremendous support for me through my career, through the good and the bad. We've had some tough times like all of us have, and she's always been there for me. She's done an awesome job of raising our 4 kids, of which you can imagine as being a professional athlete, she did that quite a bit by herself because I was gone. And we've got 3 boys, Joshua, Jeremy, and Jacob, and a daughter named Hannah, 25, 24, 21, and 19, I think I'm close, plus or minus. And my wife did a wonderful job of toting them around the country when we needed to be together. And she would do that, and they weren't easy to move around the country at the ages that they were. And my wife tells me now she's so glad that it happened before all the security and stuff we have now. You almost can't get yourself through security, let alone traipsing a family. But I love her very much, and I honestly, when I say that, there's a significant and a huge advantage at a pro level when you can keep your mind on your job. And I didn't have to worry about all the time what was going on at home because she was faithful and a godly mother and wife, doing what God has blessed her to do. And so I've really appreciated that and couldn't have done what we've accomplished together without her. So again, babe, love you and thank you. She won't come up here, so. Where to start? I want to also thank, I know I've got some teammates here. Kevin Beck, I think, is back here. Raise your hand, Kevin. Is it, where is he? Is he? Randy Brower? There's Randy. All right. I know Charlie. Is there anyone else here that, I didn't get around to see everyone, but everyone, Charlie in the middle of the room, love that man, enjoyed playing for him. He was like us. He was a kid. And he enjoyed coaching. You could see it. And I think he had us doing some goofy things, but he was fun. And what I admired about him the most was his relationship with the Lord and the influence that he had on me in my walk with the Lord and his influence on me as an athlete. Charlie gets a lot of credit for some of the things that he made us do or made me do that really ended up making me a better athlete. So I really appreciate that. One of the questions I always get asked, and I'm going to talk a little bit about baseball since that's what I did, is how do you go out there with that amount of pressure on you and perform? And that's always a curious question, I think, for a stopper, and I get it all the time because I know my family can hardly sit there sometimes when I'm performing. I know my mom always got up and walked out, couldn't take it until it was over. But the pressure thing, I got hopefully a fun little story to share with you. I was really at home on the mound. And when I get that question asked to me, I go, well, let me share a story about what I think is pressure. We were playing a game in St. Louis. Whitey Herzog was the manager. We were playing, I think, the Montreal Expos, and we weren't in this game. But Whitey had a pet peeve. He did not like his pitchers, and if you played for him as a pitcher, you knew right away he didn't like walks. He didn't believe in him, didn't want his pitchers walking hitters, wanted them challenging them and making them swing the bat. Don't walk them else you weren't going to be in the game very long. Well, you know, you play 162 games. There's going to be some days where things don't go like you want them to go. And this was one of those days. And from the starting pitcher to the next, well, he emptied the bullpen out. And I was the only one left in the pen. So we had gone through a starter and 4 other guys, and it just we were down. We weren't really in the game. I think we were down a couple runs, but every pitcher, including the starter, for whatever reason, was walking hitters. And Whitey got really impatient and finally jerked the starter out of there. Went down to the pen, called the next pitcher. He got 2 or 3 innings in, walked some guys. He jerked him out. I mean, and I'm sitting with the bullpen coach. It's him and I. And I turn to Dave Ricketts and go, he might have you in this game before it's all over. And he turns to me and he goes, no, he says, you're going to get in this game. I go, we weren't even winning. I said, that's not my spot to be in a game like that. And he goes, you wait and see. He goes, if these guys keep walking pitchers, you're going to be in there. Walking hitters. Well, Bill Dawley was in the game. I don't know if any of you remember his name. He was kind of a middle reliever for us for a couple of years. And he was the last guy in the game, and I'm sitting down there by myself. And we're in the 8th inning, and he walks the first guy. 4 straight pitches. And I look at Dave, and Dave goes, you better start playing catch. I said, I'm not going in this game. 5 pitches later, he's got guys on first and second, okay? 4 more pitches, and, I go, God, is he pitching with his eyes closed out there or something? We end up with the bases loaded. And Andre Dawson at the plate comes up with bases drunk, and Bill Dawley hadn't delivered a pitch yet. So Dave Ricketts says, you get to get up and play some catch. So I start loosening up a little bit, and I'm watching the game. Ball 1, ball 2, ball 3. And when you play for a manager long enough, you can kind of read them when things are going to transpire. You kind of know when you're going to be in the game. And I kind of stopped throwing, and I looked in the dugout, and here comes Whitey out of the dugout. And I'm like, really? Bases loaded in 3-0 on Andre Dawson. And he marches, and I get, Whitey had a certain walk about him. Like, probably a lot of players could tell you little quirky things about coaches because they do them all the time. And I could tell the way he was walking out there, he was going to take him out of the game. And Dave Ricketts is standing down there going, see, I told you, you're going to be in this game. Sure enough, he gets out to the mound, and he goes, give me the ball. And Bill walked off, and he signaled for me. So I come in the game, and I walk up the backside of the mound. And, we had a pretty tall mound, and Whitey had gotten the ball and got himself, because I kind of towered over him, got himself on the backside of the mound. So when I came running in from the bullpen to come up the mound, I couldn't get all the way on top of the mound. So I stopped halfway up. Well, halfway up we were eye to eye, about this far apart. And he reached out, usually just gave me the ball and said, go get him. And that was pretty much the conversation between him and I during games. So I put my hand out, and he goes to put the ball in my hand, but won't give it to me, So I can't get the ball out of his hand, so I look up to see what the heck's going on. I mean, he is just like burrowed in, right, square in the eyes with me. And he goes, I don't give a damn where this ball goes, but you better not walk this SOB. Now, Tony Pena is standing behind him laughing because one of the best number 4 hitters in the game, Andre Dawson's got a 3-0 count. And my managers have just told me, don't walk him at any stake. Don't walk him. So Tony's back there kind of going like this. Whitey was dead serious. He walks off the mound, and there I stand. And so Tony didn't even say anything to me. He just was like, good luck. So he gets back there. I wind up, and I throw the first pitch, 95 miles an hour right down the middle. Andre Dawson deposited it over the left field fence, about 450 feet. Now I'm mad. So I get out of the inning. Anyway, I get out of the inning, and I go in the dugout, and Whitey, and I go up the tunnel because the game's over, and he kind of grabs me by the back of my jersey and pulls me back, and he looks at me and goes, way to go. I'm like, what? Way to go? He goes, yeah. He goes, he could have easily hit a line drive right at Ozzie Smith, and we got a double play, and we're out of the inning. And so I always bring that story up because, to me, that's pressure. The rest of my career was easy. When your manager's telling you throw a strike 3-0 to the best hitter in the game, so at that particular time. But that was just some of the things that go on in baseball. People always ask what happens out there on the mound, who's saying what, and it's trust me, it's not rocket scientists. Most of the time they're running defense or telling you how we're going to pitch a particular hitter or whatever. But I really enjoyed playing for Whitey. We tried to get a hold of him to throw some comments out. He's very entertaining, but I could tell you I owe my major league career to that man in terms of the transition I made from starter to reliever and how he used me when he got me there, especially as a rookie player. You just don't see that often, to be thrown in the fire that fast. And he stayed with me. And I think the real key to my career, wasn't about how good or bad I was that I had a manager that believed in me and communicated that to me and was willing to let me struggle. That's a great feeling in any part of life, when you don't have to be perfect all the time, that you can relax a little bit even when things aren't going good. And when you got the media breathing down your neck, which some of you probably remember when I was here in LA, some of the hard stuff that I dealt with Tommy Lasorda. But Whitey had a way of instilling the right things in athletes, and I think that's the biggest reason for my success. Was I didn't have to look over my shoulder, and he knew that I knew that he believed in me, and when the going got rough, he stayed with me. And you see a lot, I think, in the game where managers pull their young pitchers out when they're struggling just because of the pressure from the media, whatever. And the next thing you know is they're second guessing themselves. And I never had to do that as a young player. And that gave me the opportunity to mature in that position, in that job, and was never had to look back. So I really enjoyed playing for that man. I think he's got one of the greatest baseball minds ever in the game, in terms of working a bullpen and a team. And I think that's why players respected him. And there isn't a coach in the world isn't worth his salt unless his players respect him. And he just had a knack for getting his players, being very honest with them in terms of what they thought their capacities were, where they would fit, their role would fit on the team, so that the team could play as a whole unit and not a bunch of 25 individual guys running around out there. So I really do admire him as a man and what he had contributed to my life in baseball. That's the end of my baseball stories. I guess I want to communicate to you this evening a little bit on the other side of my life, and a lot of that has to do with where it started here at Biola. And the foundation that like Becky and Wade have shared with me as well, the foundation that Biola established in my life and my relationship with the Lord really started growing here. I was overwhelmed. I am not too proud to admit that what I am proud of here, I did have a 1.9 my first semester at this school for grade point averages. I played basketball and baseball, and I got a call from my dad immediately at the end of that year saying, you need to pick one sport. You can't play two. So, I had to make an adjustment there, got my act together, got myself off of probation. I think do they still put you on probation here if you're messing around like that? Anyway, I got my act squared away and put a little more discipline into my studies and never had another issue and could move forward. But I really have benefited a lot in terms of what Biola has invested in my life from a biblical standpoint, trying to understand the scope of Scripture and what that means in life and how we apply it. It was not easy moving into professional sports. And like Becky was saying, is integrating what you learn, some out of a textbook from professors lecturing, and getting that into a life form, a life piece. That's not easy to do. And I'm sure all of you know what I'm talking about with that. Whether you're in the business world, I don't care where you're at, if you love the Lord, that is not an easy task sometimes, especially when you live with 25 guys and you spend more time with them than you do your family. They know you. You cannot pull the wool over the eyes of a professional athlete. They all know what everyone is doing on the side or not. They really know, even though guys think they're getting away with stuff, everyone knows everyone almost too much. And so I found immediately that it wasn't so much what rolled out of my mouth. It's easy, I think, for Christians to always come up with the right words and be able to say the right thing. But what I found more important at that point in my life was maybe not so much what rolled out of my mouth, but how I was living my life and choices I had to make that were going to confront me, temptations that were going to be there. And a lot of that comes back for me to what took place and what was invested in my life here at Biola. And then as that grew, as I moved through my professional career, I found that not everyone maybe agree with what I believe, but they respected me. And they respected me because I was striving to live what God all calls us to. And, that doesn't mean I didn't trip and fall and screw up and not be the quote unquote the Christian I should be, even when I was playing the game. I can remember my mom calling me on the phone one night and she goes, Did I see your lips say what I thought it said on national TV? Did you ever notice when a pitcher gives up a home run, the camera goes right on him? I don't know how they split that fast, but they always get the word no one wants to hear, the F-bomb, drop out of your mouth, and you can just read it as plain as day. And I think I got that call twice from my mom. She just was checking. I go, did I say that? I think I was saying fire truck or something. But that was probably for me relationally the hardest thing with my teammates was not to push them away. How do I engage them? Go out with them? Where do you draw the line? All that stuff. And a lot of Christians at the time, they got so zealous. Baseball, young players, a lot of baseball players come to know the Lord in baseball through Baseball Chapel. It's a great organization, but they don't know what to do with what they got, and they don't really understand what they have. And so it was really hard for me to be the Christian I know that God wanted me to be and be able to know where to draw the line and engage my teammates and not have them feel that I was better than them. Because I found probably halfway through my career, and I think this is true in any walk of life, and maybe more magnified where I was, but I still think everyone deals with this, was I realized right away that non-believing athletes or teammates, in my case, it's usually a teammate, would view the Christian guy as better than they are. And so you have this discrepancy. You know, they see themselves here. It doesn't make any difference what I think or what I see. What we forget is how is the non-believing world looking at us and evaluating us, and how are they perceiving us? And we forget that. And it's a valuable information I think for us as believers. And that was a hard battle that I had to try to figure out a way to get on the same playing field as they were. And a lot of it obviously is they didn't know scripture. They didn't know what it meant. Obviously, you know the problem between the believer and the non-believer. And it was hard for me. I found that, you got to be willing to be vulnerable. You got to be willing to share your struggles. You got to build a relationship with someone. And it's all about relationships. I mean, our faith, our end game of eternity is about a relationship with Jesus Christ. Is it any different with anything else? Absolutely not. It's about relationships. Those world rolls and turns on relationships. And that's kind of changed my thinking in terms of, conversely beating someone over the head with my Bible, so to speak, like sometimes we tend to do. With a right motive and I think a right heart, wrong approach. And so the rest of my career was a battle with the non-believers to try to have them see me that, hey, I'm sinful too. I got problems. Yeah, I'm a believer, and I can tell you why I'm a believer and what God does for us and what Christ did on the cross, but I'm as broken as you are. And I don't think we like to, as Christians, we do not like to portray ourselves like that. And yet we need to if we want to have an impact on those people that are non-believers around us. And so that was something that was a challenge, like I said, for me. There was always the battle of the other Christians on the team. There was a lot because some guys were new in their faith, and there would be conflict and arguing, which was really probably not a positive atmosphere. But that's what goes on a lot of times when in sports under so-called a Christian umbrella, and that was hard to be patient with that. And but I thank God he, through his grace and mercy, overcomes our stupidity in some situations and covers it. And I was always amazed how that always was the end game, so to speak, in terms of how something played out. And it was neat to see. I was very humbled and privileged that God would use me in the way he had through my career in opportunities I had to share my faith. And I just, I thought, can life get any better? And I get out, and I've been out of the game now 15 years, and life is better. Life is better than a professional baseball career. And all the things that David read and all the accomplishments don't even, hold a candle to what the investment that God has had in my life and the fruit and just the blessing that's come from that. And, I think it's only in those eyes that it puts it in right perspective. Do I look on the few things that I saved on the wall and enjoy what I had an opportunity to do? Absolutely. But you know what? For me, it would be zero, and it would be a bunch of dust without my relationship with the Lord. In terms of where it fits in my life, and to be honest with you, it doesn't fit very high in my life because I've seen God do so many miraculous things in the relationships that I've had in baseball and the relationships that I have now. And I'm really enjoying. I'll close with this. I'm really enjoying ministry opportunity that he's put me in. I do a little bit through FCA on our pro ministry side with the Cardinals and the Rams as a chaplain. And it's fun being able to sit back and talk with some athletes having been on that road and be able to help them move and grow their faith. So thank you all. I'm humbled by your presence here and your willingness to celebrate with all of us this induction, and Dave and Biola, the board of directors, for thinking of us, the three of us, for your first class in. It's very humbling. Thank you very much.